people only think that change is finished because they have no idea of what change could be. I mean, the notion of equal pay was a pretty big change, and we still don't have it. You all are, the women who are paying tuition here will pay the same tuition as the men and make 70 cents on the dollar when you get out. So even at that fundamental level, we're nowhere near there. But let's take the issue of parenthood. Why is it that young women and young men still accept the idea that women are going to take care of children more than men do? Men are just as loving and nurturing and as capable of raising children as women are. It's a libel on men to say they are not. And as long as that, the old system of the socializing of baby humans and young humans and so on being totally in the hands of women, as long as that goes on, two things will happen. One is women will have two jobs and men will have only one. And the other is that children will grow up deeply believing that only women can be loving and nurturing because that's what they've seen, and that men either can't or don't have to do this. And so we will have replicated the deepest, deepest injustice, the injustice in the family, which normalizes all other injustice. If we will believe that, a son and a daughter have different claims on education money or different degrees of freedom or whatever it is, and that's okay, if we will agree that the father's occupation is more important than the mother's and so on, we have agreed to a birth-based difference. We have normalized a birth-based difference that is the most fundamental one, the one that race imitates, the one that class and economic injustice imitates. We will have accepted that. We need to create a democratic family if we are ever going to have a democratic society. The only form of arms control is how we raise our kids. We will be killing each other with something if we continue to normalize domination and violence. So if I have any wish, it is for you to know and believe that everything you do matters. And hopefully we can think up some pretty subversive things for you to do today. Thank you. Could the house lights come up just a little bit, or is that? I've already upset everything by not sitting in the chair, so I don't want to be difficult, but I can't see you very well. There are mics in the audience, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
You have two people with mics. Okay, so here and here. So if you raise your hands, or if you'd like to come up and use this mic, you're welcome to. Or sit in the chair.
What if we're loud enough not for the microphone? Hello? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because it's the people behind you who probably can't hear. Yeah.
Thank you for coming, first of all. In your many years of activism, you had mentioned equal pay. What is one of the largest women's issues that you have seen little to no movement on in all of these years, something that we as the younger generations need to pay attention to that haven't been picked up on and carried further and seen progression in? What's maybe one of the things that we need to?
Well, I think we've progressed on most things. I mean, the most fundamental way we've progressed is we know we're not crazy. This is huge. Because before, many more people bought the argument that it was biological, that it was inevitable, you know, they bought it on race, they bought it on sex, okay, that sort of is mostly gone now, and that's very, very important. But the one issue I think on which we've made the least progress is raising children, understanding two things. One, that men are just as capable of, as I was saying, of being loving and nurturing, and are just as responsible for children. Women cannot possibly and should not possibly do it by ourselves. It will only replicate the roles that are the problem in the first place. And two, we have let the society at large behave as if it has no children. I mean, we don't have, again, I know this state is trying to be in the leadership on early child education, but we still, as a country, are way behind any other advanced democracy in providing child care, and way beyond in providing medical care, you know, for children. So I just think we haven't raised our sights enough. I think there are an awful lot of, speaking to the young women mainly, a lot of women are sitting around saying, how can I combine career and family? Instead of getting mad as hell and saying, if men are not asking that question as much as I am, it's never going to work. I have a right, every parent, male or female, has a right to have job patterns that make it possible to raise little kids and still have a job and not have to make that choice.
May I please sit in your seat?
Yes! Where are you? Come on. This way. Is that not great? We all need to be able to ask for what we want. You might get it, right?
Ms. Steinem?
Yes.
I had the pleasure of seeing you in 1973 in Chicago, and it's a double pleasure today. But I'd like your comment on the erosion of reproductive rights.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, clearly this is kind of the whole ballgame, reproductive rights, you know. How did we get in this ridiculous situation of men and women who are all human beings not seeing each other as human? Because women got restricted in order to restrict or encourage, either one, reproduction. And because women's bodies are the most basic means of reproduction, right, then we got into this situation, and that it is the whole ballgame. So that's why there's such resistance to it. Reproductive freedom, the simple ability to decide for oneself when and whether to have children, sweet reason, right? It's whether we can make that decision is the biggest determinant of whether we're healthy or not, whether we're finish our education or not, whether we're employed or not, what our I mean, you know, it's not a single issue, it's a fundamental human right, reproductive freedom. So, you know, there's resistance to it because it is so fundamental, because you have to maintain control of reproduction to maintain racism, to maintain racial separation, racial differences, to create more workers and soldiers, if that's what the powers that be want, you know. We think, you know, it's sweet reason to say I want to control my own body, but actually when you think you're seizing control of the means of reproduction, it sounds pretty radical, right, doesn't it? And of course that's what we're doing. So there is a lot of opposition to it, absolutely. And because we have had many years now of administrations that oppose reproductive freedom as a basic human right, we have the surrealistic, ridiculous notion that what you all are getting in this state is sex education in high schools, and it starts too late anyway. It should, you know, in every other democracy it starts when school starts, not just in high school. I just learned at lunch that the unwanted pregnancy rate is higher at 14 than at 16. So, you know, it's clearly not starting early enough, and it's not comprehensive. It's not really sex education. It's the only area in which ignorance is rewarded.